Hi, it's Tell All Tuesday time. I'm Kristen Darcy, and I'm so excited to be here today. It's kind of strange to say that, but I am so excited to be here today on our Tell All Tuesday, which is the question is, what is your biggest fear at the moment? So I sent this out through my newsletter and had such an amazing response to all my people who receive it about the fear at the moment. And what struck me the most was really a sense of fear about the fear, if you could say that. And, you know, there's an acronym that says fear is false evidence appearing to be real. And I kind of have an issue with that acronym because when you have a sense of fear in your body or a sense of emotional fear, it is real. It's real to you at that moment. And it could be, you know, whatever response you have for the fight or flight and how does that feel personally to you is really your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And so what ends up happening when you're in that fight or flight response, and I talk about this a lot in my in-person workshops, and there's a great movie clip from What the Bleep Do You Know? And it talks about neurons that fire together stay together, basically, and how if you have reoccurring thoughts, especially if there's a health concern or if you have a diagnosis of infertility and all the emotional components and the emotional stress of that, if you have the same thought pattern, which creates the same flow of the chemical releasing into your body, it's almost as if you go from, instead of going 0 to 100, you start at 100 and you go to 200. And your body gets accustomed, if you could say, to that response. But I wrote down some notes about this and have a little homework because, you know, I'm always about doing an activity about fear. But I want to go back to some of the emails that I got about what is your fear at this moment. And it was amazing because for people who are in the fertility journey, a lot about age came up and a lot about finances came up, about the fear of being able to fund your fertility treatment. You know, Davina from Fertility and Within Reach, and I just did a workshop about that. And if you're lucky enough to be in a mandated state, that might not be a fear that is right at the top of the list, but the fear about funding your fertility and also age and health concerns about really being able to have a quality of life while you're in a treatment, and also if you have another health concern, your quality of life. But what I wanted to really talk about was to get into the strategies of fear and how you get aware of your response and how you quiet that that moment, you know, within the moment. You know, there's always an outside trigger, and then internally you respond to that trigger. And so it could be, you know, something as simple as dropping a gallon of milk. We had that happen in our house the other day, and we say, you know, can't cry over spilled milk or the spill of the day, but there still is an immediate reaction when that happens, and you have a choice about how you respond to that. And I remember when I was in my fertility journey, really being almost overcome with the fear, you know, the fear of my body not responding in the way that it was supposed to be, not producing enough eggs or hyper, you know, stimulating or whatever it was, but it was fear-based. And what I found for me is just acknowledging the fear, you know, letting it come in, feel it, and then take a moment before you relax. It's interrupting that pattern. So if we go back to that clip, and I'm going to put the clip up about that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? Because it's so powerful, because you actually get a visual image of what happens to the neurons in your brain when your system, you know, which is doing exactly what it's supposed to be, what happens, the neurons that fire together, stay together, and how you can reverse that by having a conscious moment of that fear response. So what homework I would like to give about the fear is really giving it a voice, and giving it a voice in a way that you become its neutral witness, even if it's for a second. This is a practice of it. And, you have a sensation. So I'll be honest, I'll share you what happens with me, because I'm so fair. If I have a fear reaction, I blush. I can actually feel myself, and I'm kind of doing it now talking about it, but I have a fear feeling, and then I get blushed, because the blood rushes to my cheeks and my head and my brain, and I physically turn red, and I can feel it. And so what I do now is really just take a deep breath at that moment and don't respond, and then breathe again. I know you're probably tired of hearing this as an acupuncture point, but simply putting your thumb within your fist and holding it down like this, and putting that in your lap and taking a deep breath also releases that that pattern, the fight or flight pattern. But I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about the other strategy that I used to stop that mental chatter. So you have an incident, you have a trigger, you have a reaction, and then it's becoming aware and how you interrupt that. And you can do the breathing exercise. You can put your thumbs within your palm and breathe with that. But it's really you can jot down that thought. And I talk about this, I talk about it in my book, but I talk about it a lot, is that I actually have a sticky note on my computer today, but jotting down the trigger thought and putting it up on your computer screen just to give it acknowledgement. Because what ends up happening is, if you don't acknowledge it, it just grows. It'll grow into a bigger mental chatter. At least that happens for me, and professionally with some of my other clients also. And then you give yourself permission to sit and just feel those. Because if you resist that feeling, then it's just going to keep resisting. And then it's going to grow. It's almost like it takes on an energy of itself and gets bigger and bigger. So I think it's productive to make fear your friend and say, here's a natural, very organic response to a trigger. And what are you going to do as being conscious, as opposed to being on an automatic pilot? I have to tell you, I'll tell you something personally. I was in a workshop myself and felt that really big fear. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a little disproportionate. What's going on? And I was going through the workshop, and I could feel that fear, and it was almost like panic, like I had to get out. I had to get up and move and get out of the place. And I took a moment within that and felt it, and I thought, oh, this is old. You can kind of feel like, oh gosh, I feel this before, and then ask yourself, when did I feel this, and why was it? Because it's almost as if that neural connection is so strong that it brings you get triggered to a heightened state when you're in maybe a neutral position, and you're triggered already to a heightened state. So it's so beneficial and so freeing to really take a moment and say, where is this landing in my body? Where is this fear actually, quote unquote, living in my body? And for me, it was my heart. And I was like, okay, here's the fear. Okay, hi fear, what are you doing? And it sounds like a little crazy because you're actually having a conversation with it. And then you breathe through it, and you might get a sensation. You might get a vision, or you might get a feeling, or you might hear something. But then you can just simply say thank you to it. And I swear to God, it releases it. It's just profound. But know that the fear, is serving a purpose for you, and that it's okay, and not to judge it, and to invite it in instead of exiling it or trying to push it away. Because the more you try to push it away or exile it, the bigger it gets. That green hairy monster, will be a fear hairy monster. But I just wanted to give you that tip. So for your homework, check out that movie or email me and I'll send you the clip about what the beep do you know, or what you know. I can send you that clip so you can see the neurons actually firing together. And then just over this week till next Tuesday, just be aware, or start to be aware when you feel fear. And maybe you're not even aware that it's a fearful feeling, but you feel, like I said, flushed, or your heart starts to pound, or you get sweaty, or you might feel like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of here, you know, the fight or flight. But start being aware of your sensations of fear and write them down. And then if you have a fearful thought, jot that down, because this is what happens organically. There's a bridge between your right and your left hemisphere of your brain, and also your frontal brain. And once you take that step in writing it down, it actually acts like a calm down agent. And it sounds crazy, but seriously, I have this little stack of sticky notes, and I just give it my attention, and it helps. It's profound. So thank you so much for everyone for reaching out and sharing about fear. You know, we're talking about fear in October because of Halloween and the spookiness of it. And because of that, I have a gift of a download for you if you email me at kristen@kristendarcy.com. And thanks for tuning in about fear. And I just wanted to read the quote that I included within my newsletter. And it was actually from Jack Canfield. And it said, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And, you know, it using that example from last night of feeling the fear and, you know, working through it. And instead of beating myself up for feeling that fear, it actually was a release, a healing. So let your fear be a tool to get in touch with that part of you, and let that part of you come out into the light. And you can start doing that by just asking yourself that question, you know, what do I feel? What do I need? And just be aware of that sensation and or feeling or sound, and keep track of it for 7 days. That's the challenge for this week. So thanks so much, everybody. I look forward to hanging with you again on our Tell All Tuesdays. Feel free to email me at kristendarcy.com. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.